Hey gamers, Maniac here with GameAccess.net, coming to you from Outpost Discovery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for Halo Week 2019 on GameAccess.net. This is the big entryway into the facility. I shot this in 4K video and I just wanted to give you guys a little look specifically at the event itself. And this is the Hall of History. And this is the centerpiece of the Hall of History. This is the Master Chief Spartan John 117's statue. Now, you're probably wondering what version of the Chief's armor this is. I believe it is the Halo 2 version. You don't see this on the Hall of History, but there are actually several different technicians that are walking the Hall of History in character. The assumption is that they work for Dr. Catherine Halsey, or they work with Catherine Halsey, or are familiar with her work. And a few people asked specifically which version of the Chief's armor that was, and because they were in character, they couldn't answer. But I was able to translate for him, and I think that was a Mark 6.
On behalf of the United Nations Space Command, it is my honor to welcome you. As guests of Outpost Discovery, you represent the future of humanity's safety and prosperity in the galaxy. It will be my job to accompany you through all training programs and education modules within this portable facility. So look alive and let's get started. Tomorrow's heroes are forged today.
That was Gabriella, the AI of the facility. She makes a couple of appearances throughout the show itself and the expo itself. And we'll talk more about her later on, or possibly even in a later video. This is the Needler, and I just wanted to show specifically it up close for one very good reason. As you can see just how detailed this is. All the props and all of the specific individual things that are on display here are just incredible attention to detail. And that was just one example of it. There's one thing over here as we move over to the UNSC area. This is Captain Thomas Lasky's uniform, his United Nations Space Command uniform, Navy uniform. Most of the props and things on display here were actually developed by the guys who worked on the expo itself, but I couldn't get confirmation about this particular uniform. I think this is the uniform the actor wore in Halo 4 Forward Until Dawn. As you can see, this is a screenshot of Captain Thomas Lasky when he was commander during Halo 4 Forward Until Dawn, and the uniform really lines up. I honestly think they actually used the screen-used uniform. I don't think that was made specifically for the show. I think that was the original uniform. Now, here we see the Covenant Elite. And again, just like the Master Chief, this is a very, very detailed model. I looked at this model a couple of times very closely, and I don't think it's designed to show any specific elites in the Halo canon. Because the armor is silver, he can't. It's certainly not dressed up like the Arbiter, so it's not the Arbiter Thelvadamy. It could be the ship commander that was a friend of the Arbiter, but he wore a white armor. So I don't know who this guy is or supposed to be. There's no record or listing of his name, but he looked like the ship commander with a slightly different color. So anyways, this is the Covenant side of the expo, and we'll just move on a little bit and take a closer look at some of the UNSC area over here. This is the space warfare section, talking about the history of the naval base. Over here is the ring experience. That's a giant IMAX, or I should say Omnimax dome, that we're going to take a closer look at in just a... Yeah, you know what? Let's take a closer look at that. These are Spartans Owen and Hazel, which are the official Spartans of the show. Now, the way the ring experience worked is it actually had several different rooms set up with a couple of different models on display, rotating models on display. This is supposed to be Delta Halo, or I should say a shrunk down to scale representation of a segment of the Delta Halo. This was one of the first things they actually had on display. You're unfortunately not hearing any audio from this because, I guess for safety reasons or for ease reasons, all the audio that was provided for this particular part of the show was included in headphones. So this is it from another angle, but if you can see over here, over here a wide angle image of the Delta Halo itself with this is of course a Halo Sentinel, or the kind of Sentinel, a regular Sentinel that you'd find on the Halo ring. And this was the second section of the of the Halo ring experience, basically to show what was going on, or what could be expected to be going on the Halo ring itself, before we actually got to see the Halo rings in action, if you will, or first-hand encounter with the Halo itself. So this is a pretty darn good prop that they had, which is supposed to replicate a Sentinel, and they showed that they could probably have a finite amount, but it would be in the billions. Moving on to the third room of the Halo ring experience, this is the index from Delta Halo. This is the index that was retrieved by Commander Miranda Keyes during the events of Halo 2. And one thing they said was that this was the actual index as retrieved. This is not a replica. But the important thing to remember about this is that they said that they did research and determined that every index operates only its own Halo, and this would not be used on a different one. Over here we have a rather large flood spore. Yes, I've taken care of many of these over the course of time, and yes, it still terrifies me. And this is a replica, not the original, but this is a replica of 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor of Installation 04, or Alpha Halo as he's known. Yeah, as Johnson said, and I referenced it a few times, gentlemen, do not shake the light bulb. Now, the index person did say that this is in fact a replica, that 343 Guilty Spark is dead, killed by Master Chief, the Arbiter, and of course Sergeant Johnson, may he rest in peace. And we're going to get a closer look at this flood spore right here. Just take a look at how big this is. This is basically a frozen, preserved one. And the game really doesn't give it this scale as to how big they are. In the game, they look kind of small and harmless, but in later games, they've gotten bigger. And as you can see here, this one attacked me. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So yeah, I would not get too close to that. Unfortunately for this moment, this is where we're going to have to cut back to me for a second, because unfortunately I can't show you what was going on in the Ring Experience Dome, because cameras unfortunately were not allowed to record the Dome video or the Dome experience itself. Sorry. But I can tell you what I saw in the Dome experience. They used what's very similar to an OmniMax dome or an IMAX dome technology. It's not the biggest I'd ever seen. Clearly, it was one design that was basically to fit the center of the expo hall, to kind of show a 365 panorama shot of the Halo rings. And the inference was that they were using the drones that we had seen earlier in the presentation to record footage in 360 degrees of all of the sights and sounds of the Halo itself. Couple of things that I wanted to bring up. They did actually show footage of a history. There were clips from Halo 3 used. There were clips from Halo Wars used in order to kind of present the history of the Spartan program, the history of the Covenant War, to people who may not have been that familiar with the Halo franchise itself. And for people that were familiar with the Halo franchise itself, showing the moment and playing the Halo music again, after all of these years, was just, if there was one moment, I was fully prepared to walk into that Hall of History and a tear could have come to my eye. I was fully prepared for that to happen. It didn't happen when I walked onto the expo floor, but it did happen, or it just about almost happens. If there was a moment when it almost happened the most from the expo floor itself, it was probably when I started watching the footage from the Hall of History. So we got to see how the Halo itself worked. We got to see a beautiful shot in very high resolution of the art style. And there are a couple of clips online that are used. Unfortunately, I can't use those clips for copyright reasons. And also for the fact that since it was a dome, it wouldn't show very well on this, 16:9 video that we're watching this on. So, needless to say, what did we see? We saw the exterior of the Halo. We saw the different geography of the Halo. We saw certain portions of the Halo itself, particularly the Forerunner structures that are used for the library. And at the very end, we got to see that there was a Warthog on that Halo at the time, and its driver was one person in particular who looked very, very, very familiar. And that's how it ended. A lot of people, and I have no basis in fact to, well, let me phrase, I have no official confirmation of this. A lot of people are considering that to be, or that footage itself, to be the teaser for Halo Infinite. Basically to be footage used or recorded using the split space engine, using Halo Infinite art assets in a 360-degree dome effect. I cannot say I disagree with that. It looked like Halo Infinite. The art style matched Halo Infinite quite well. And there was one moment in particular, because a lot of this was devoted towards showing Delta Halo, or because they did explain during the presentation that the Halo rings had not yet all been explored, and that Alpha Halo, the Halo from Halo 1, had been destroyed by the Chief. A lot of what they knew about Halo was left from Delta Halo, the installation 05, the one that was used in Halo 2. We might be going back there for Halo Infinite. That's my assumption. That's my that's kind of what I took away from this. I don't have a problem with that. It's beautiful. The updated art assets look amazing. Halo 2 was actually my favorite game of the franchise. But there's one thing that kind of surprised me. I don't know if you saw this in the footage or in the images that I recorded, but there is a image of one of the libraries that was included in one of the panorama shots during one of the video spots in the dome. They had a very large panoramic shot of one of the libraries, and at first you look at it and you think that's Delta Halo's library. And then I looked at it harder, like the second or third time I actually visited the hall, and I thought to myself, that's not Delta Halo's library. This is surrounded by trees. We could be seeing a new Halo, meaning a new Halo ring itself. Okay, we're going to go away from the ring experience and get back into the Hall of History. I'm sure many people from Halo 1 are going to remember this. This is the Halo 1 pistol, as made famous in the very first game. It later got its glory back after being nerfed in Halo 2 and Halo 3 as one of the best weapons in Halo 3 ODST. And I missed it quite a bit with its 2-time sight and kills in 3 shots. And this is, of course, the assault rifle that I also remember from Halo 1. Kind of acting as an SMG, it was retooled, and I honestly believe that its best version was probably in Halo 3. I remember using this in Halo 3 multiplayer constantly and just loving it. It's a really good weapon. As we move away from the weapons, we're going to go over to this ground combat section. You might notice in the lower left-hand corner of some of these images that there are segmented barcodes on the pictures. That is because the pictures and the barcodes on those pictures are actually used to interface with the official Halo Outpost Discovery app. And everybody remembers this. Does this really need any introduction? This is the introduction to the M12 LRV, otherwise known as the Warthog. As to why they call it the Warthog and not the Puma, I'll leave that to posterity, but you guys know you want to see this, and here it is. This Warthog is huge. This Warthog is real. It does drive. I've seen it drive. I saw them testing it. For all I know, they wielded it in here. Unfortunately, they would not let us drive it, nor would they unfortunately let anybody into the cockpit or in the gunner's position. I know. I was disappointed about that. I wanted to get some pictures driving it, but it is what it is. But look at the absolute detail on this thing. And as I mentioned, this is made specifically for this particular show. There have been Warthogs made in the past. One, of course, was made by Weta. That's currently in New Zealand. One was made for the promotion of Halo 4 using 3D printing technology. That, last I checked, is currently at the Patterson in Los Angeles or Hollywood, California. I don't remember which. but you can just see the a lot of love went into this thing. I mean, look at it. The panels look correct. The bolts, the welts all look correct. I mean, like, they really made this as a labor of love. And I remember specifically saying to my brother-in-law, this is probably going to be my brother-in-law's next vehicle. I mean, it's a Jeep with a chain gun in the back. 4-wheel drive. You can't go wrong about this. Now, this right here, a lot of people would pause to look at. This is, of course, the history of the future, and I have no better way of calling it. In the upper right-hand corner, of course, you'll notice that image of the monument, March 3rd, 2553. This is, of course, the kind of flag that you'd find in a capture the flag. Nobody ever told me about a flag, but it's the flag. It's red, we're red, you know, or, of course, the blue side would have their own blue, but yeah, this is the flag. Hey, Chief! I got the flag! Don't tell anybody! Shh! Over here we have a near perfect replica of Noble Six's helmet as it appeared at the very beginning of Halo Reach. Every crack, every weld, every bullet hole is replicated perfectly. Of course, some people don't remember this is how his helmet looked because this is the default helmet, and I kind of used a different helmet for that scene. You could pick what your armor was. And right here we have a cool design with a scale as to how big each of the Covenant enemies actually are in real life. Of course, you have the Brutes being the second biggest, and of course the Hunters being the absolute biggest. This is a Spartan jump jet pack that we would use in Halo Reach or in Halo Reach's multiplayer. The pack is actually lovingly designed. I actually asked why did they put a UNSC shirt here, and they said, well, any shirt would have worked. So, and here we have a little bit of history of the UNSC for you guys. As I was saying, if you scan those tags in the lower left-hand corner, you can actually, or for any of these displays, you can see those barcodes that are included. It actually interfaces with the Halo Outpost Discovery app itself, and you can get either like a 3D model or some augmented reality image, you know, over the tag itself. And that actually allows you to unlock all kinds of cool stuff. This right here is the first Reverie, one of the very first colony ships. And this is a nice homage to, you know, our history before there was faster than light travel. This is a quick look at the marketplace and some of the stuff that was actually for sale. I actually appreciated them having all of this stuff, at least in display cases, so that you would actually have a good idea about what you were buying, you know, before you bought it. This right here is the main stage for Mixer broadcasts, and it was used for live streaming Halo games and for interviews.
Final target neutralized. Let's get out of here.
Let's find a ride and get to the cabin.
No, that'll take too long.
Got a better idea?
Oh, let me tell you. There's a teleportation grid that runs throughout Halo. That's how the monitor moves about so quickly. I learned how to tap into the grid when I was in the control room. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of energy.
Uh-oh. Something tells me I'm not gonna like this.
But I think I can take the needed energy from your suit. Needless to say, I think we should try this only once.
Cortana.
Yeah! Yes, I actually got to meet them, and they were so nice. And they signed my copy of my game. This is the Mega Construx area, where they showed off all the great constructs, if you will, that have been used over the years, that have been created over the years. And this is a little look at their collectible minifigs and stuff like that. You could buy some of this stuff on the show floor, of course. You could see some of it from the marketplace earlier. I just thought it was really cool to look at all this stuff that they had on display from all the construct models that they had over the years. I've never actually owned any of the Halo Mega Constructs, so it was cool to actually see that display with everything in it. They did actually have their own little build area here where you could actually make your own minifigs and stuff like that. And of course they had previous models and stuff on display, tanks and starships. That was a pretty big one right there of the I think that's the UNSC Infinity. They also had this custom full-size UNSC drop pod actually made in Mega Construx. I got in it, and just to show that it is full-size and pretended that I was the rookie. Yeah, that was fun. Didn't come out looking as good as I thought it would, so you're not going to see it here. This is the PC gaming area. All the people that are there in that area at that time are playing Halo Reach on PC, which is not out yet. It's probably not going to be out for a little bit longer. They are working on it. It was playable on the show floor. They're playing, I think, the tip of the spear. This over here is probably more familiar to Halo players. This is the console gaming area, where they were doing all different types of console games and competitive console games. Alright, while we're here, why don't we just take a little peek behind the curtain at some spots maybe you didn't get an access to. This is the VIP lounge, or at least part of the VIP lounge. I'm not going to show all of it. But 343 was there, and I got to meet Frank O'Connor and Kiki Wolfkill. I told Frankie I had been a fan of his work for years, and I told Kiki that whenever I saw her show up on the Inside Xbox feed, I always knew that that meant that there'd be great news coming for Halo. Halo Fireteam Raven was also playable on the show floor, and we had an extra one at the VIP lounge, and I actually got to post a score. So I'm not going to say who I am on that list, but I am on there. I am not number one, but I am up there pretty good, so I'm pretty proud of that score, actually. So I hope you guys enjoyed part one of our look at Halo Outpost Discovery. There will be another part coming. We're going to show a lot more stuff from the expo itself. Until next time, guys, my name is Maniac with GameAccess.net. Take care. Over and out.